I love this fish. This is a German brown trout. I caught it in Colorado, 23 inches long. Beautiful. Check it out. The spots are so vibrant. The colors are amazing. This fish almost looks like it is alive, swimming on my wall. But obviously, that's a dead fish. It's made to look like it's alive because a taxidermist painted it and did his work. And so what looks like it's alive is really quite dead. And today we're in James chapter 2, and we're going to talk about something that's dead. May appear to be alive, but very dead. What I'm talking about is faith. James tells us in James chapter 2, faith without works is dead. If you have faith, but there are no works visible in your life, that kind of faith, it's dead faith. It's flatlined faith. It's faith in formaldehyde. That frog in the jar of formaldehyde may look like it's alive. It's preserved, but it's not alive. It's very dead. So let's begin. If you want to read with me, read along. James chapter 2, verse 14, he says, "What use is it, my brethren, if a man says he has faith, but he has no works? Can that kind of faith save him?" The key word here is if a man says. It can also be translated if a man claims. This is a person who claims to have faith. Just because you profess faith does not mean that you possess faith. He says if he claims to have faith, if he talks a good game, if he, yeah, I'm a Christian, I'm a believer, but if there are no works in his life, there's no good deeds in that person's life, he says that's not real faith. That's not authentic faith. In fact, he tells us that kind of faith is dead. Because if the faith is real on the inside of you, it will manifest on the outside in the way that you live your life. Jesus talked about this a little bit. Remember in Matthew chapter 7, verse 16, Jesus said that you will know them by their fruits. You'll know them by their fruit. And so if someone claims to be a Christian, but you don't see any fruit in their life, or if they claim to have faith, but there are no works to back that up, then perhaps you're looking at a dead fish. Perhaps you're looking at dead faith. In fact, he takes us to the funeral home. If you look in verse 26, he says, "Just as the body without the spirit is dead, so also faith without works is dead." When a person dies, their body goes in the ground, the body decays, but the spirit goes to heaven. Just as the body without the spirit is dead, in the same way, he said, if you claim to have faith, but there are no works, he said, your faith is dead. And he gives us an example in verse 15. He says, if a brother or sister is without clothing and in need of daily food, and one of you says to them, "Go in peace, be warmed and be filled," and yet you do not give them what is necessary for their body, what use is that? Even so, faith, if it has no works, is dead, being by itself. So he says, there's a brother or sister. Okay, so this is not a stranger, brother or sister. This would be a believer. And if you see a brother or sister and they need clothing and they need food, they're hungry, and there was a lot of that at that time, and you see this person half naked, starving, and instead of giving them food, instead of meeting their needs, you just, God bless you. What did he? Be at peace, be warmed and be filled. And then you go your way. Shalom. Hope this works out for you. Hey, I'll put you on the prayer list for sure. You can count on that. I don't care what kind of nice words come out of your mouth? You walk away and you're leaving them hungry. In other words, if your faith was real, it would be evident. It would be visible. Real faith, living faith, is a faith that you can see. It becomes evident by the way that you live your life and how you serve and how you meet needs. It's not enough to just claim to have faith, as he said in verse 14, if it's not evident in your life. I know Hebrews chapter 11 verse 1 says faith is the conviction of things not seen. But when you do good deeds to another person, when you are kind, when you meet their needs, when you minister to someone who's hurting, that invisible faith becomes very, very visible. I was thinking about it like this, because Thanksgiving was not that long ago, and I got 3 bins this tall from people at church earlier today with Christmas sweets. Yes, I love it when I get a gift of cookies and Christmas sweets. And so here's my question. What does a calorie look like? Have you ever seen a calorie? How much does 1 square foot of calories weigh? What color is a calorie? Calories are kind of invisible. Well, for something that's invisible, we sure do count them and watch them and do our best to avoid having too many of them, because sooner or later our waistline expands and hidden calories become very, very visible if we're not careful. Well, that odd illustration is a little bit like it is when you talk about faith. Faith is invisible, can't see it. But there's a way that faith becomes very visible. And that is when you serve somebody, when you meet somebody's needs, when you do something for somebody else without thinking first about yourself. And I know it's a time of year at Christmas, when we make our lists and we give people our list. This is what I want. But maybe you might consider how you can give something to someone else who is in need. It's not enough to talk a good game and to claim you're so spiritual and have all this faith if it's not visible in the way you serve people around you. We are saved by faith. We are not saved by works. The Bible is clear about that. But if you are saved, then good works and good deeds ought to be visible in your life. Beautiful fish, but dead. Let's be the kind of people that show our faith, that make it visible to the world who is watching by the way we treat them and serve them every single day.